Okay, so this video is about horizontal analysis. We're still continuing on with our discussion of some financial analysis tools. Horizontal analysis has some of the same ideas and philosophies as vertical analysis did, but we're more so in horizontal analysis now looking across a group of years, trying to determine how things have changed. Same ideas apply as far as why we want to convert our numerical figures, our dollar figures into percentages. Again, it just adds a weighting and gives us a sense of perspective on how significant that number is or how significant a change in numbers are. So when we look at horizontal analysis, we're going to have a couple of different things that we need to do. The first thing that we're going to need to calculate with a horizontal analysis is we're going to have to calculate something called the percentage of base period amount. Now, the percentage of base period amount effectively tells us, it's used a lot in trend analysis, and I believe it used to be called trend analysis in the textbooks, but you're taking a group of years, and you can see in the example below, we're taking a group of years from 2005 to 2009, and we're trying to say, or paint a picture as to what's happened from our starting base year of 2005 all the way through to 2009. How have things changed? The way that you do the actual calculation is you take your analysis period amount, which is just the dollar amount for whichever year you're currently looking at, and you divide that by the base period amount. Okay? So when we talked about vertical analysis in the other video, we said the first step is always to set your base, and that still holds true. In a horizontal analysis, when we're comparing multiple years, step one is always to set your base. When you're doing your percentage of base year amount, unless the question specifically says so, your base period amount is always the oldest year. So in this example here, we have 2005 through 2009. 2005 is going to be our base year. And you can see that in the example, we set that to 100%. Always set your base. Step one, set your base to 100%. Then what we're going to do is each of the following years, the subsequent years from 2006, 2007, 2008, all the way through 2009, we're just going to grab the dollar figure from each one of those years, which is the analysis period amount, and we're going to divide it by the base period amount of $5,181.4. Okay? So in 2006, the percentage of base period amount is 112%, and the way that you get that is to take the $5,786.6 and divide it by the base amount of $5,181. Now here's the key: when we're talking about the percentage of base period amount, the base period never changes. So once we set 2005 as our base period amount, every other number is expressed as a percentage of that figure. So if I do 2007, I'm going to take the $6,190.06 or whatever, or 60 cents, and I'm going to divide that by the $5,181.40. Well, actually it's in thousands, so it's $6,190,600 divided by $5,181,400. But the gist is, you don't change that base once you've set it. We'll take every single number and express it as a percentage of that $5,181,000. Okay. What commonly happens after you do this trend percentage stuff is you can graph it out, so you can get a graphical representation about your growth patterns. But a lot of times this will give us a picture, a sense as to how the company's been growing. It gives us insight into what's happened in the past, but it also allows us to kind of predict what will happen in the future. So it's a valid tool for when we're working on our budgeting and trying to forecast out, in 1, 3, 5 year increments to say, where's the company headed and what can we expect over the next couple of years. All right. So again, that's the first one. That's percentage of base period amount. Okay, we're going to set our base a single time. It's the oldest year, and we express everything else as a percentage of that year. The second calculation you're going to need to do is a percentage change, and this is just for the period. So percentage change for the period. So it's the same idea. We need to set our base first, and it's going to be the oldest year. But we're doing this analysis in a 2-year block. So what we're going to do is we have to calculate what the dollar amount of the change for each period was, and then divide it by the base period amount. So let's just do 2005 and 2006, for example. Okay. I'm going to escape out of this, and I'm going to bring up a calculator. Okay, so we're just focusing now on 2005 and 2006. So to figure out how much our Sales have increased. Is this sales? Yeah, assumed net sales. So to figure out how much our sales have increased from 2005 to 2006, we first have to figure out what was the dollar change for the year. So 5,786,600 dollars minus the $5,181,400 from 2005. So 2006 sales minus 2005 sales gives you your dollar change. So from 2005 to 2006, our sales went up by $605,000. So to calculate what percentage change that was, you take the dollar amount from the dollar difference between the years and you divide it by the base period amount. Again, the base period amount is always the oldest year in the comparison. So that's the 2005 sales of $5,181.4. So you can see that there's an 11.7% increase in sales. That's how you get that percentage increase there. Okay? So you have to calculate what the dollar change was from year 1 to year 2, and then you just divide it by the base year, which is always going to be your oldest year. Okay? Now this horizontal analysis is a little bit different than the other one because this is a percentage change just for a given period of time. So we've said multiple times now that you have to set your base. That's always step one. Well, when you're doing this type of analysis, your base changes each year. Because as we move forward into 2007, what we want to do is we now want to compare 2007 and 2006. So that's my 2-year comparison. So my base year now isn't 2005, my base year is now 2006. So I go through the same process, but now I use 2006 as my base year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take $6,190,000.6 and I'm going to subtract the $5,786.6 million from 06, and you'll get a change of $404,000. Okay, so sales went up by $404,000 from 2006 to 2007. That's my dollar change. To get the percentage change, I take that amount, that $404,000, and I divide it by the base period amount. And again, because we're comparing 2006 and 2007, the base period amount is $5,786.6 million. Okay, so when you round that up, you'll find that your percentage change is 7%. Okay, so there's just that one subtle little difference between your percentage change for the period, right? So percentage change for the period is looking at 2 years independently, and the base period changes each year, versus what we looked at with the percentage of a base period amount, where we set our base one time and we express every other number as a percentage of that figure. Okay, the base is always the oldest year, but in your comparison period. Okay, that's probably the most common mistake, and what you'll have to focus on the most is understanding what we mean when we say, is it percentage of a base period amount, or is it percentage of just percentage change just for the one period of time? All right, so let's look at an example now. We're going to work through this horizontal analysis right here. Okay, so it says use the information below to calculate the percentage of a base year amount for 2013 and 2014. So I've given you, I've given you 3 different years to look at: 2012, 2013, 2014, and we're going to calculate the percentage of a base year amount. Okay, so I've put a little reminder here, and the reminder says set the base once as the oldest year, and then it doesn't change. So we have to set our base one time, and then we're going to express everything else as a percentage of that figure. All right, so if I look at, and we're just doing this for 2013, 2014, so let's pretend I wanted you to do this for inventory. Step 1 is to always set your base. And I mentioned this in the other video, sometimes you want to highlight that so you know what your base is. So our base is 700,000. Okay, I want to express every other number here as a percentage of that base figure. So you're going to have to add some percentage columns wherever the question asks you to do so, or maybe you're just filling in the blanks in a chart, who knows. But you're going to express our inventory from 2013 as a percentage of 2012. Okay, you'll get better at this as you go, but the first thing that I would be doing in my head, if this was me and I was doing this question, I'd be saying, okay, I know 600 is less than 700, so when I do my percentage change, I'm expecting something less than 100%, because my inventory in 2013 was less than 100% of the base year of 2012. When you take 600K and you divide it by 700,000, you end up with a percentage change of 85.7%. Okay, so to me that kind of makes sense. No red flags have gone up. I expected it to be less than 100%, and it was. When I now do this for 2014, I'm going to take the inventory value for 2014, and I'm going to go all the way back here to 2012, and that's how I'm going to calculate my percentage change. I take my analysis period amount, which is 780,000, and I divide it by 700,000, which is the base period amount. Once you do that, you'll see that you come up with a percentage change of 111.4%. Right? And it works for any number on here. One of the issues that you have, and I likely wouldn't do this to you on a test or anything, but we've got an issue here with our intangible assets in that there was no value there, so you can't really calculate any percentages. It seems kind of silly. I wouldn't put something like that on the test, but I wanted to put it in the video just to show you that that could be an issue that you'll run into, because anything divided by 0 is just, it's not going to work, right? But it works for everything. If we look at our property, or sorry, let's take a look at our cash. Again, we want to do our cash analysis for 2013 and 2014. Okay. First step is always to set my base, which is that oldest period. Okay. So we're expressing 2013 and 2014 as a percentage of the base year amount, which is 2012. All right. Now, you could have a 2012 column in here, but everything would be set to 100%. Like you'd have 100% all the way down because it's your base year. Right? So a lot of times what you'll see is the questions are just asking you for subsequent periods because it doesn't make sense to write 100% down the whole way. But you may see it. If it's asking us for the percentages for 2012, we could quite simply have another column here, right, for 2012. Oops. Right? Same thing, percentage change. But in 2012, everything's going to be set to 100% because it's your base year. So for cash, it'd be 75,000 divided by 75,000. That's 100%. Right? When I do it for 2013, I'm going to take my analysis period amount. Just delete these out. I'm going to take my analysis period amount, which is 175,000, and I'm going to divide it by my cash balance, which is 70, or my base period amount, which is 75,000. So that's 233.3%. All right. Continuing on, if I take a look at 2014, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my analysis period amount of 150K and I'm going to divide it by the base period amount, which hasn't changed and is 75,000. Okay, so that's 200%. And that's really all there is to that type of horizontal analysis. Again, the trick is just remembering to set your base and then remembering whether or not that base period amount will change. For this, when it's percentage of a base year amount, we set it once and we leave it. Okay. Now we're going to take that same information and we're going to use it to calculate the horizontal percentage changes. All right. And you can do this in multiple steps if you want. Like you could do this type of calculation down in your rough work, because the first thing that we're going to need is we're going to need to be able to determine how much has the amount changed from year over year. When we focus on a percentage change for each year, we're looking at a 2-year block. So we still need to set our base, but that base changes every time I analyze. Okay? So let's do accounts receivable this time. If I'm doing the accounts receivable percentage change for the period for 2013, I'm comparing 2 years. I'm comparing 2013, and I'm comparing 2012. What I need to determine is how much has accounts receivable changed from 2012 to 2013. Well, the way I do that is I take my analysis period amount, which is 400, and I subtract my base period amount, which is 50,000. So 450,000. So 400 minus 450 is a negative 50,000. I now have my dollar change. What I need to do to turn that into a percentage is to take that dollar change and divide it by my base period amount. So 50,000 divided by 450,000 gives me a negative 11.1% change in accounts receivable. So anytime the value changes, goes down year over year, you're going to end up with a negative percentage and a negative dollar amount because it's gone down. If it's gone up, then it'll be a positive. Okay? So that's how we do accounts receivable for 2013. When we move to 2014, we have to do the same thing, but everything kind of shifts, right? So now our analysis period, we're not going to be using this as a base anymore, and we're not going to be analyzing those 2 years anymore. What we're doing when we analyze 2014 is we have to compare 2014 and 2013. So for accounts receivable, we're now using 600 and 400,000 as our two analysis amounts. And again, step one is to set my base, and my base is always the oldest year. So in this case, the base is now 400K. You can see that it's changed. I'm still setting the base, but it's no longer 450. It's shifted over 1 year to 400K. Okay? So now I can calculate the dollar change again, which is 600,000 minus 400,000. So 600, and that gets you a $200,000 increase, right? To get my percentage change, what I have to do is I have to take my dollar change amount, which is $200,000, and I have to divide it by the base period amount, right? That's why I recommend highlighting or circling or putting a star beside the base period amount, because then when you're going in and you're doing the analysis, it makes it easier. You don't accidentally pick the wrong number as your base period amount. It's very simple for me to see the dollar change was 200K, and I'm going to divide it by this thing here that's been highlighted, this 400K. And that's a 50% increase. And then I'm done. Right? And it works for anything, any of these different ones that you're doing. And you'll see that even when I get to intangible assets here, while I can't do an analysis for 2012 to 2013 because there was no amount here, I can do it, right? And I can't divide by 0. I can do it for 2014 and 2013, right? Because those are my two analysis years. I can set my base as 100K, and I can calculate my intangible assets, what happened to them over that 1 year period. Well, they were at 100 and they went down to 90K, so they dropped by $10,000. Okay, so my intangible assets have decreased by $10,000 from 2013 to 2014. To get my percentage change, I take the dollar amount that changed, which is negative $10,000, and I divide by 100K, my base period amount. So it's a negative 10% change. Right? Again, we do these percentages, and if you can do them all the way through, and you can do them for all of the numbers, it works the same way every time. But again, they add weight to the number itself. So saying that sales changed by $10,000 from last year to this year might not seem significant, but then all of a sudden, if you calculate the percentage and it's a 60% increase, well, hey, that's pretty good, right? You might want it to get better, but a 60% increase in sales over 1 year is a pretty darn good start. All right, so that's the way horizontal analysis works. You need to be able to calculate those two different types of horizontal figures. Again, keeping in mind, does the base period move, does it not? But step one is still always going to be set your base, and then let's express some numbers as a percentage of that base figure. That's all we're doing. Okay, so that's it for this video. I would recommend now going to the textbook and trying a few of the examples, anything that's been assigned to you. And you should be good to go. You can come back to the video if you need it. But that's it. All right. Cheers.